How absurd. I'm not a warrior. I'm just a person living with a chronic illness who doesn't have all the answers. Welcome to Q&A for young onset Parkinson's disease. Today's topic, communication. When you have a motor symptom disorder, including problems with your hands, you're not able to write physically in any legible way. It's called micrographia. You can also not text very easily, at least not using both hands. Very slow to text. Your tremors might cause you to double tap everything. There is adaptive technology such as mice for your computer that will stop things like that, but you know, it requires a lot of upkeep, a lot of learning. There's a curve in there. To learn and adapt to new technology is often hard for people suffering from brain fog. So we often use voice to text because we can't even type to exchange emails. The voice to text application is fraught with disorders and problems. It'll pick up noises, other people's conversations, music in the background. You have to do it in an entirely quiet place. Therefore, if you're out and about, the chances of you being able to multitask in order to communicate are nil. So, we use voice to text if we can, if our voice is even working. Sometimes we're stuttering, cluttering, or our voices are getting a little too quiet for such. But if we still have the luxury of using our voices clearly, voice to text is one option. The problem that I have with voice to text is it is the first incarnation. It's the first reactive thought that comes blowing out of my big fat mouth, and then there's no way to edit it, and it comes off as one big string of run-on sentences. The other person gets it, and they're a little bit flummoxed, like, what is she talking about? It might even be a response to a text from last week. Since I tend to open my phone, see a text, think that I want to reply, and then forget to double back until several days later. By then, the thread has already advanced far beyond that initial conversation because text has an urgency to it. This is why I can't stand it. Why we have an urgency to text, I have no idea. But that sort of pressure to answer all those little red dots can be overwhelming, especially if you have a motor symptom disorder. So I've received several questions today that I'm sort of encapsulating into this little talk here. Technology is not keeping up with our brains, basically. We can think about things a lot faster than we can actually put them out there. So if you're having a conversation with someone who has Parkinson's or a neurologic disorder or motor symptom disorder, please allow for some errors of thought processing, of timing. For example, many people can dictate text while they're driving. I can't do that. Many people can walk and chew gum at the same time. No longer an option. So in order for me to communicate with you, I have to be sitting in a quiet place, not distracted or doing anything else to give you my attention. Otherwise, what you're going to get is a piece of a conversation that might be confusing and could cause misunderstandings, mischaracterizations, and sometimes even some sort of witch hunt. I've had the strangest responses. While I was preparing for brain surgery, someone was texting me rapidly. This person wanted an answer from me. I was about to go into an MRI machine, which means that all electronics have to be off. I didn't have time to communicate that to this person. They had a whole story in their head by the time I came out of the MRI that I was ignoring their texts because they had something emotional they wanted me to hear. And previous to that, we had a sort of timing thing where I would always answer. And I just couldn't. That's exactly why text is a problem. We can't see what's going on with the other person. 7% of our communication is words and language. 30-something is nuance, tone, and the cadence of our voice, things like that. 50-something% is body language, and that's what I go on. I'm blind on the phone does not work for me. Text doesn't work for me. Making plans, making an appointment to call somebody, text is good for that. I've learned my lesson. Blown up so many relationships with people who are literalists as well, where you're making a joke or being snarky or saying something silly, and it's taken very seriously and sincerely. It's taken as if you meant it to be like some sort of a hit on them. Or I've had people think that I was angry with them because I didn't call them back. I have 973 messages on my phone right now I've never even heard. No offense, I probably asked you to call me. But that's no reflection upon you. So back to me and back to you, back to us. We cannot afford to make storylining a feature of our communications. It's not fair to us or to the other. It's not about me. It's not about you. In other words, the person who's doing the responding or the writing, or whatever it is they're putting there, it's about them having an urgency. And text doesn't necessarily have to be urgent. It's just the easiest thing to grab if your hands don't work very well. So, back to these questions now. Next one. Communicating with my loved ones, including my family and closest intimates, seems to be falling on deaf ears. It's almost like I'm repeating myself or in an echo chamber. I don't think I'm being heard. And it's probably because I'm getting increasingly angry, and who can hear you when you're angry? That is a great point. And why wouldn't you be angry if you're not heard? I mean, anger and not being heard was what created all these Karens and all these people who are screeching and squealing about things being unfair. I mean, in part, that's just part of it. I feel as if Parkinson's is really hard to translate. No matter how compassionate or empathic or wise or educated somebody is, Parkinson's seems to have this way of confusing even the best intentions. I've had loving friends and family and people really try hard to understand, and it's just not happening. Does that mean they don't care? No, but everybody has their capacity. They're not research fellows. They're not getting a PhD in Parkinson's. They're just trying to figure out how to best interact with us because they care. So if someone shows an interest in learning about Parkinson's, make that be enough, you know? And it is up to us to communicate what's going on. However, if we're experiencing psychosis from medications, or having our own little breakdowns or our off time, it's very difficult to communicate reasonably and skillfully within an off time. I'm on right now because of my meds, but I'm exhausted and I also have a lot going on that's distracting me. So in other words, all of this happens within all of these other things happening that are not unusual for life. We all have to work, keep a family together, have a household at some point in our lives. You know, we all have to have relationships. There are a million things going on. We might be contract. We might be getting calls every 2 seconds. Things aren't happening inside one of those deprivation tanks where we can concentrate, you know, or be claustrophobic, whichever you land on there. I find them a little claustrophobic, but they're also kind of neat. But you will have problems communicating if there's a lot going on at once. And if you're texting or calling or emailing someone, you cannot know what's going on in their life. Have you ever had the kind of friend who no matter what you say to them, they'll tell you how busy they are and they'll give you their schedule? It's a major peeve of mine, and then I catch myself doing it. So it's enough to just say, I can't do that right now. Here's when I can do whatever that is that the person needs, and wait to get back to them. People will get their feelings hurt. They're going to make up stories. That's not the kind of person you want to hang out with anyway if you have Parkinson's. You have enough stress in your life. Stick with the friends who are confident, who will ask you directly, hey, what's going on? It's better always to just be curious rather than judgmental. You have that opportunity to choose your friends and who you hang out with. So I'd recommend sticking with the simple. Just keep the communication simple. All right, next question, and this includes your intimates. Everybody, just try to keep it as plain as possible. Just trust me, I've been in some gnarly situations that were so avoidable. Add in other things like alcohol or whatever it is that everybody's enjoying, and it can really get confusing. Not worth it. Next question and last question. How can I protect my loved ones from making noises in the kitchen while I'm recording? Just kidding, just kidding. How can I protect my loved ones from Parkinson's? I've heard you say several times that it hurts everybody around. This letter goes on to describe some circumstances that are pretty dire. I would say that there's no way that you can protect people from Parkinson's. It's going to beat you up, it's going to beat your partner up, it's going to beat everybody around you up. The thing is, you're the one who has to live directly with it in your own body, and the body keeps the score, as we know, like the book says. It is a constant loss, and loss comes with trauma. There's a lot of grief in the loss. While this is happening, you will have to negotiate this relationship with another person in your life, at least 1 or 2 or 3, who are also being beat up by the Parkinson's, who are also being affected by the Parkinson's. So just keep that in mind as you're interacting with people around you, that they've signed up for this because they love you. And everybody's doing the best they can. There will be people who will drop out. That's a capacity thing and not personal. It's going to hurt. But again, that shows their capacity and nothing more. It's not a reflection upon you being lovable or not lovable. It's not a reflection upon you being someone who's been rejected and abandoned, or not. And you'll be surprised who will show up and who won't, but that's not really up to us. People give and do what they can when they can. We cannot know. Just like you don't want them making assumptions about you and what you're doing in your life and how you're experiencing life, don't make assumptions about theirs. That's my advice to all parkies. I hope that helps somewhat. It hurts a little bit to be incapable of communicating and to be misunderstood. It's very painful, or mischaracterized, or have your integrity and your character questioned, when in fact these are very well-known symptoms and side effects of this neurologic condition.
Are you aware of the shape I'm in? My hands, they shake, my head, it spins. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, take me in. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, take me in. Brooklyn, Brooklyn.